Hello guys, I'm Kolo and I'm back with another episode. In this episode I'm not going to talk about a gold farm or anything. It's just a beginner's guide on the Paladin for PvP only this time. Because on this Paladin I'm doing only PvPs, some RPGs, some trees, but nothing PvE related, only some LFR when I need some gear. Because this is actually only a farmer, I only mine on it, since he's my miner in my blacksmithing character, so I'm doing a bit of PvP on him, so let's get straight to the talents. The talents are pretty simple. These are the easiest ones to use in my opinion, and not the best, but you can get to play with them even as a beginner on Paladin, on Retribution. Pretty simple because this focus on this. These choices focus only on Judgment and Templar's Verdict and Blade of Justice most of the time. So let's get to the first row. I'm using Righteous Verdict because you'll see later that I'm using Divine Purpose too, but I'm using Righteous Verdict because after every Templar's Verdict, the next Templar Verdict deals 15% more damage for 6 seconds, and you will not have problems with your holy power in fight, because you have Wake of Ashes, and you'll see later that you have Divine Punisher and some other more, Blade of Wrath and so on. So the way this works is like this. So let's use one Templar's Verdict, and you have this buff right here, and if you have enough holy power to use Templar's Verdict again in 6 seconds, the next one will deal 15% more damage. I think this one is better for beginners compared to Execution Sentence, because Execution Sentence is another spell on your bar. Yes, it costs 3 holy power, but it's more of a preparation stuff, because you need to use Execution Sentence and then prepare your holy power to use a lot of Templar's Verdict in order to deal damage. So Righteous Verdict is easier to use because you only need to spam Templar's Verdict and you will deal damage. Now on the second row, and back on the Execution Sentence, if you're not a beginner, then you can use this and like somehow prepare your Templar's Verdict spam. Now on the second row, on level 31, I'm using Blade of Wrath because I think it's better. It resets the cooldown of Blade of Justice, which is another holy power generator plus a pretty good damage dealer, damage spell, and increases its damage by 25% also, so I think it's great. I used Hammer of Wrath before, and I think that Blade of Wrath is better in the long term. Again, it's easier for beginners to use this, and it's not another button on your spell bar, so the less buttons you have to play, the easier it is for you to use this spec. On the third row, I'm using Fist of Justice because I can stun more, and since I will be using Templar's Verdict a lot, which is a holy power spender, the Hammer of Justice, which is my stun, will go from 1 minute to maybe 20 seconds pretty fast, so I can stun them even faster. Now you can use Repentance, and this one is for 3v3 in my opinion, but if you're going with a spec, with a spec that can use this, or you can use Blinding Light. Again, this one can be used in Battlegrounds too, because you will be surrounded by many people at once, and you can use this in arenas too, but only if you have a spec comp that has a lot of stuns and so on. Now on the fourth row, I think Wake of Ashes is the best. This one is the replacement for the Ashbringer Wake of Ashes, but this time it also generates 5 holy power even if we miss the target. So look here, so I'm using Wake of Ashes and I got the 5 holy powers. Before, the Wake of Ashes that we got from the Ashbringer, it used to generate only if we hit a target, and it's better now. Plus, it's a holy power generator, and it's also AoE damage, so it's great. we are not going to look at the demon and undead enemies are also stunned for 5 seconds, because in PvP we are not going to use this. And again, this is only a PvP one. I have no idea about any PvE. On the 5th row, I used to play a lot with Cavalier because I like to have a lot of movement, although Paladin kinda lacks in movement. And now I'm using Unbreakable Spirit because it reduces the cooldown of my Divine Shield, which is this one, the bubble, of my Shield of Vengeance, which is the shield, and of my Lay on Hands, which is the instant maximum health heal, by 30%. So right now the bubble is at 3.5, and without the talent is at 5 minutes. The Lay on Hand is at 10 minutes, and now it's at 7. And the Shield of Vengeance is at 2 minutes, while I have Unbreakable Spirit is at 1.4 minutes, which is great because you will be spamming Shield of Vengeance a lot. It's great. It's a shield which also deals damage whenever it expires. AoE damage, so it's great. It's this talent is good. But if you want to have movement, you can use Cavalier, so your Divine Seed has 2 charges, or you can use Eye for an Eye. But this one, I think it's better whenever you're against only a melee comp. So as a Paladin, if you, in arena at least, whenever you get to be queued against like a Demon Hunter and a Death Knight, or a Demon Hunter and a Warrior, or a Death Knight and a Warrior, and so on, everything like that, even Feral, but I don't think because that's a bleed. But if in jungle or rogue and anything else, you can use Eye for an Eye. It's on a 1 minute cooldown, and it reduces the physical damage taken by 35%, and it also deals damage to the melee attacker. So it's like a Thorn from Druid, but kind of worse, I guess, because it only deals 300 damage. But anyways, it's great for any melee comp that you will be queued against. But I'm using Unbreakable Spirit. Now for the 6th row. Well, now here I tried all of them, and before I thought the self-size healer is great because every time you will be using a holy power spender, your Flash of Light will be empowered by 25%. No, the cooldown will be reduced by 25%, and the power will be increased by 10%. So after you get the 4 stacks, it will be an instant cast, and it will be 40% more powerful, and that's all. But that means that you have to stack it 4 times. So you need to deal 4 Templar's Verdicts in a row if you need healing. With Divine Purpose, that's doable, and with Wake of Ashes, but I think that this requires too much of a preparation for a beginner, and I would just go with Word of Glory because it has 2 charges and it heals a friendly target and 2 of the most injured targets within 30 yards for 7k right now for me. Whatever, it's a great, so you have 2 stacks, you know, on a 1 minute cooldown recharge. That heal up to 14k for me at least now because I don't have geared Paladin, but it's great. Yes, it's another button on on your spell bar, but it's great because in 3v3 at least you are healing your whole party. You know, it's an AoE heal, while self-size healer, yes, it's an instant cast, it's very powerful, but you need to prep it. So for beginners, I think Word of Glory is the best. Even if it's another button to press and it costs 3 holy power, you can use it, let's say, whenever you need it, because 3 holy power is not that insane to get, since now also Judgment generates 1 holy power. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spells that generates holy power, and that's great. You'll always have a holy power generator. And now on the last row, I tried them all. Crusade is dead. I'm sorry, because this one also requires preparation. I mean, after you press it, you need to prep in order to use its power, you know, to its maximum potential. Inquisition is great because it increases your damage done and haste, and I'm putting the accent on haste because haste is our friend as a Paladin, and you can use it whenever you have 3 holy powers. But this one again requires a bit of preparation, but then you have um, 45 seconds of 7% more damage and haste, which is great. But with my spec, I'm using Divine Purpose because Inquisition is another spell on our bar, and we don't want that as beginners. We want Divine Purpose to spam Righteous Verdict, and I mean we don't really need to prepare, you know, a lot. But we have Wake of Ashes and Blade of Wrath, you know, and Judgment, and we can basically spam Righteous Verdict, you know, Templar's Verdict. With Righteous Verdict, the next Templar's Verdict gives 15% more damage, and Divine Purpose is better now because it also makes the ability free, but it also deals 30% more damage. So if we get to spam like 3 Templar's Verdict in a row, that's insane. Even if we get 2, that's great. And I think I've seen it proc a couple of times, you know, in a fight. Pretty insane damage. Now you can use Inquisition if you want and have that buff of haste and damage done, but I'm using Divine Purpose because in my opinion it is easier for beginners. So that's like the spec. I don't know if anyone else is using it, but I guess many people are changing a bit here, you know. They are using Execution Sentence or maybe Selfless Healer, maybe Justicar Vengeance in some times, but I don't think so. Maybe Eye for an Eye and Cavalier, or maybe even Crusade, but I think it's useless right now. And maybe Hammer of Wrath, but this is the spec I'm using. Now going to the PvP talents, I went with Law and Order. It's kind of the obvious choice. Lawbringer is great because it makes your judgment even better, you know, because it applies Lawbringer to the initial targets, hit for 45 seconds. And whenever you cast Judgment on enemies with Lawbringer, they suffer up to 5% of their maximum health in holy damage, so that's great. There's more damage. It's again an obvious choice. And the last one is Divine Punisher, because now your Judgment generates 1 holy power, but with Divine Punisher, every other judgment you cast on a target will generate 3 more holy power. So let's say that one judgment is 1 holy power and the next one is 4 holy power, which is insane. Now looking at all the other talents, I'm thinking that maybe you want to have more movement, so you want to use Unbound Freedom, which makes your Blessing of Freedom better. You can use Blessing of Sanctuary if you have a 3v3 and you are on Discord or something, whatever, and your team needs this. There are a couple of more here that you might want to use, but I think these 3 are the best for beginners, you know. These are no extra buttons, you know, on your bar. Again, the less buttons you play, the easier is for a beginner to play a class. So I think that this one is better. So let's go and try to I'm going to try to show you the rotation. Although it's not one, all you want to do is get to spam Templar's Verdict whenever you can. So we can go and press Wake of Ashes, you know, for the 5 holy powers. 1 Templar's Verdict, you know, Blade of Wrath, and Blade of Wrath is back again. And you can use Judgment whenever you can. So again, Divine Purpose just procced, and that's great. Now all we gotta do is just wait for our holy power to get back, and Divine Purpose just came back again. Now you see I used the second Judgment and my bar just filled up. I got Blade of Justice again, and now all I gotta do is Blade of Justice again, Judgment, Templar's Verdict, you know, and then just use my Crusader Strike to fill up my holy power bar. And you can use Wake of Ashes whenever you can. Now I'm using Judgment again, my holy power is full again. So as you've seen, Divine Purpose kind of procced a bit before, but it's all RNG. It procced, that's all that matters. It procced, and that's what you want to see. And my bar is filling up again with Judgment from holy power. My Blade of Ashes just procs insanely. Another Divine Purpose proc. So this is a pretty simple spec. You need to press like what, 4 buttons, and I mean 3, because Crusader Strike is not really a button. You can just do whatever you want. You are just spamming Templar's Verdict like hell. That's all you do. That's everything you do with this spec. It's pretty simple. Now there are a couple of more buttons to press. Yes, you have like Hammer of Justice, but this is a stun, so that's not like something that bothers you. Then you have Shield of Vengeance, which is a defensive. You have Avenging Wrath again, which gives you haste, so that's great. It gives you damage, critical. Oh no, it doesn't give haste anymore. Before it used to do, but it gives damage, healing, and critical strike, which is great. Then you have Divine Shield, which is your bubble, Layer Hand, which is your heal, and Blessing of Protections, which you can use on ally too. You have Word of Glory, which, as you see, is pretty simple to use. I used one and then I'm using the next one. So again, just if you're a beginner and you have no idea on how to play Paladin, like me, maybe I'm not the best Paladin in the world, I'm not saying that. I tried the specs, and this one is the easiest one for me to use because I don't have that many buttons to press, and I'm dealing damage and I'm surviving because I have heals, I have quicker bubble, and I have quicker stuns and so on. I have a lot of holy power generators, and I'm using only Templar's Verdict. Like that's the main thing. Or in Battlegrounds you can use Divine Storm, yes, but I like Templar's Verdict a lot because I can just burn the enemy. So I hope you enjoyed this guide. I'm Kolo, and see ya later.